Good evening, and thank you for joining me today. You are watching my new show that I'm very excited about, and it's the Weekly Review. I'm one of your co-hosts, Sharifah Hardy, and I have another very special co-host.
Hi guys, Vinny, down in San Diego. Go by Vicente Enriquez, but I go by Vinny. And so this idea came about when I was lucky enough to meet Sharifah. Had her on my podcast, Road to Growth, Successful Entrepreneur, and she had me on her podcast. And I just felt great rapport between both of us. And there's so much knowledge coming from you. I felt some knowledge coming from myself. I thought we could do this on a weekly basis. We talk to so many great people consistently.
I definitely agree, Vinny. When I met you, when I saw you, I thought this guy is definitely going places. So I wanted to sit down and have an opportunity to speak with you. Again, we're doing a live show, a live talk show. And so if you are listening, because we have people joining us, Brenda, Street Comedy, Val says hi. So if you have any questions or comments, or you want to join the conversation with Vinny and I, please feel free to post in the comment section. Vinny, I am dying to hear about your week, because I'm being nice. I'm being, sweet and pretending like I'm polite, because I can't wait to tell you about my week. So I want to know what's going on with you.
Isn't that one of those things when you have like a dish right there, but you like that other person's dish right there, so you're just like, I'll give you a little of mine, but I want a little piece of, I hear you saying this week has been good. I've been listening to a lot of other podcasts out there and getting all these great nuggets. One thing is just kind of going for it, and how strong social media is for any entrepreneur out there. So that's kind of been one of the great nuggets. I think maybe last week, and I think we've talked about this in the past, but just the people that I've been lucky enough to interview is just the kind of questions. Actually, throwing this out there right now, Harry, he's a mindset, motivational mindset speaker. His podcast comes out tomorrow morning, and I posted on my Instagram, but the two questions he asked is, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do? And if you knew you would fail, what would you do? And if those are in line, you're on the right path. So I've been looking at those two avenues over the last week or so.
I love that. If you couldn't fail and if you would fail, let me think of the answers of what I would do. Because I've never heard of the if you would fail part, but people have often asked the if you couldn't fail.
Yeah.
And I do so many different things. I never think about failure. I never think about what's the worst going to happen or anything like that. I'm known for just jumping right out there and just making it happen. So we really have to give that some thought. But one of the things that you mentioned is you said that he was a mindset motivational speaker.
Yeah.
That he would definitely be interested to speak with, because I meet so many different people and they say it's your mindset, it's your mindset, it's your mindset. However, sometimes I feel like it's something that everybody can do. Everybody just simply says change your mindset, as opposed to
No, I understand. And one of the things he does is so it's consciously.org. His name's Harry Sherwood. So again, the podcast will be on tomorrow morning, Road to Growth. But Harry Sherwood, co-founder of Consciously.org, and he actually studied with some monks over in China. It's very, very interesting. He felt like he was a puzzle and he was missing a piece, and so he dropped everything he was doing and he just moved to China. And
wow, was this recently?
This when he left, I want to say it was a couple years back when he did it. He just felt something was off. He was just like the average Joe here, played sports in school, and he's like dropped everything he was doing and just left and started changing his mindset. So, but those two questions right there, the first one I've heard, like you're talking about, I've heard that question before, is if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do? I think most people have heard that question, but the idea of what would you do if you knew you would fail, that seems just so much more powerful.
It seems powerful to me.
Huh?
I said, it seems powerful to me. What would you do if you knew you would fail? you know. I never look at anything I do as failure at all. I look at it, I just do it. You know, half the time I'm like, you need to take more time, you need to prepare, you need to think about this, you need to balance it, you need to strategize it, you need to plan, because I'm not a planner. I'm an Aries, you know, I'm rash, I'm impatient, I'm the infant of the universe. I just really jump out there and make things happen. So I never consider failure.
Well, it's the idea. Like I'm the same way as you, where it's like I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yes, that is one of my favorite expressions. One of my favorite expressions.
Well, and look at about this show right here that we put together. It was just an idea. We talked about it briefly. I think we had about 4 emails together, and we're like, all right, we're doing it.
Let's do. No, because it's the chemistry. You know what I mean? It's the chemistry. Okay, so you said you did 2 podcasts this week, correct? Or
yeah. So well, so the one that was released on Tuesday was the last. Let me jump back. So last Thursday or last Friday morning, it was a plastic surgeon. So he came from Poland, and his family came out here. He went to the military, so he could actually afford the ability to actually do the plastic surgery, right? Become a plastic surgeon, and kind of had this game plan. He's a very humble guy. The one on Tuesday was actually a girl that he was dating in Poland, and she was in love with him. So she dropped everything. She left her family and moved here to the United States because she had such strong love for him. And then she kind of went through the same kind of game plan of just fighting through it. And it's just like, you hear these stories, and it, like, when I was talking to them both, they're like, well, it's common sense. You make a phone call, you find a job, you do this, you do X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, most people are not wired like that. So it was just, both are pretty powerful.
Yeah, see, I'm wired like that. I think sometimes I can be pretty rash. I just move. You know, I'm one of those people, especially for love or for relationships. I'm willing to take that step because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what could have been. I'd rather just know how it's going to turn out than wonder for the rest of my life. Was this the one? Could this have been the one? Could we lived happily ever after? Those are some of the things that I think about.
Oh, yeah. No, there's one thing that my dad told me once, and it wasn't about love. It was more materialistic. So I've incorporated that idea towards more love and all these other things. But I've been lucky enough to travel, you know, across Europe and all these other countries. And he goes, if you see something you really like, go buy it. You know, give that to yourself because you might not have the ability to go there again. So just go buy it if you see something in the store. And yeah, so.
Okay, I want to talk about your podcast. That's what I want to talk about. So we talked about this couple. We talked about Harry and his mindset motivational speaker. As a podcaster, have you ever had any guests or any instances where you didn't necessarily agree with your guest? Not them in particular, but have you ever been in that instance where they say something and you just want to be like, oh, that's bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, do you have that? And how do you handle those situations?
You know what? So I'm a middle child, and I have a lot of sisters.
I am too.
And so I have to deal with the conflict. And you know, if any of my family members are watching out there, I love all you guys.
But
I still have to deal with the conflict and be that negotiator throughout it. So I've never had that in any of the interviews I've done where I've been like, I do not agree with it. There's been some stuff that I maybe sway off, but I'll kind of allow them to talk and let it talk through. I'm very gracious, but I have had ones where, because I do a lot of cold calling, and I know we talked about this before, and there was one person, and going by Vinnie, most people think I'm Italian, right? I'm actually Mexican and Irish, so I'm very ethnic. So I'm talking to this person, and he's telling me all this stuff, and you can kind of tell there's a tone of racism there. And he thinks that, you know, I'm Italian. And so I'm letting him talk. And finally I have to start debating him a little bit and just trying to go after him, trying to sway him, because what does it really solve by getting angry? It doesn't solve anything. But if you can enlighten that person, or you can give him some information and maybe it might change them, that's going to actually make a difference. So that's kind of the way I look at it when I don't agree with someone, I guess. Yeah. What about yourself?
I haven't had an instance where I didn't agree with someone, but this is what I'm working on. What brought it in mind was the whole motivational thing. When I first started doing radio a few years ago, I would have everyone and their dad and their mom as a coach or a motivational speaker. And to me, coach could, to me that will, I just have to keep it frank, because that's what I'm going to do on Weekly Review with Vinnie and Sharifah, is that coach to me always meant it was like code for unemployed. You know what I mean? Since 2008, it's like you've never seen so many more coaches and life coaches, and and it's like, okay, but what do you actually do? And so I'm sitting here listening to so many people.
Where's the success? Like, you're a life coach, or you mean whatever it is, some kind of coach, but where's the success to actually have the track record of coaching me?
Right. Yes. And they're like, what do you do? I'm a life coach. I'm like, everybody lives, so everybody knows how to have a life. And so I just listen to these people sometimes, and I understand that they're in that entrepreneurial mindset. They're building their business. They're trying to help people and trying to find a way to do it. But sometimes when I listen to certain people, I want something more tangible. I want something where I'm like, oh, okay, this is what she's done. These are the people that she's helped. These are the people she made a difference in his life. This is how they do it. They have sessions, they have workbooks, they have books, they have, anything more than just a coaching session. So I was kind of wondering if you've ever had that experience.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely come across that where we're all and I used to take everything at face value. And now you have to really figure out people's credentials to figure out where they actually are when they say they're a coach. Because I think that's one of the easier ways of making it. No offense to coaches, I have my own coach, and so there's nothing wrong with that. It's just sometimes you have individuals that maybe haven't had that success, and they find an easier way of living vicariously through another individual. And now there's other times that maybe they haven't had that success, yet they know the information, they know the book smarts, they know the way it's supposed to be structured. Yet there's also those times where they haven't made it in the business, or they haven't made it in their profession, and now they're like, I need an easier way, I need to change this up.
Yes.
And those are the ones that you're like, yeah.
I don't know about you, but it's interesting to me. And so I love being a podcast host. I love being a video cast host because I love to learn. I'm a lifelong learner. And the funny thing that most people, unless you really tune into Ask Sharifah and pay attention, that most people don't know, is that I tend, like in a week, because I have so many different interviews, I may have interviewed maybe 3 or 4 people who basically do the same thing. And so I tend to ask them, Vinnie, what do you think about this? And then they'll give me an answer. And then I'm like, well, I just did another show and this person said this. Do you agree, disagree? And it's like, I'm amazed by how many people you can ask the same question to and get such a wide range of answers and responses who are in the same basic industry.
Well, so when I'm curious about this. So when you're talking to those different people, they're giving those wide way of the way they feel on a topic, right? Are they speaking with such certainty that they're like, that's what it is? Or have you been able to sway any of them into going, well, actually, maybe that other person might have a good reason behind it? Or how has that played out so far?
No, I just do it more for my information more than anything else. I never try to sway them, never try to change their mind, because they don't even know what I'm doing half of the time. What I do is just try to get different points of view. So when I'm having conversations, I can go back and say, well, look at this interview. This is how it was explained here. Look at this interview. This is how it was explained here. This is this person's view, how it was explained here. Because the last thing that I want to do to any of my guests or any of my interviews is make them feel like they have to go on the defensive, make them feel as if I feel they're wrong. I don't want them to feel like they're being judged or that this is a court. People before my interviews, they always come in and they say, and we have this conversation about, some people say they don't want to do any shameless self-promotion. And I say, well, Ask Sharifah is all about shameless self-promotion. That's what we are here to do, is to promote you. So I don't want to blindside someone by having them as a guest on the show. And then I'm like, you don't really know what you're talking about. I talked to Johnny and Johnny says you're wrong, but it's interesting.
Questions. The hard-hitting questions where you say, you're a liar. I looked up you.
Sometimes I want to, though.
How do you find your interviewers or interviewees?
I spend a lot of time on social media. I spend a lot of time on the internet. I'll see an interesting story in the news and I'll reach out to this person, see if they want to be a guest. I have several websites where I can post that I'm looking for a guest. And then I constantly post on social media, be a guest, be a guest, be a guest, be a guest. And I was posting the other day and one of my friends called and we were talking about the show. And I was explaining to her my reach. All of my shows, the audio is downloaded and uploaded to Anchor. So being that the audio is on Anchor, that gives me my podcast, which is on Spotify, Google Podcasts, on 9 different platforms. Then I upload the interview to my Facebook fan page, which has about 12,000 followers. I upload it to my website, which has about 500 unique visitors per day. And so I was explaining this to this lady, and she was a longtime friend. She said, you know what, Sharifah, I never realized you had that much reach. And I was like, really? She said, yeah, I didn't know. And I was like, well, I post all the time. She said, yeah, but I didn't really know how far you reached. You might want to put that in one of your posts. And so I was like, okay, that's good to know. And I placed it in one of the posts, especially for the sponsorship opportunities, because I have quite a reach, even though people may think that this is just a Facebook Live. We take it and we share it and post it in so many different other places, including my YouTube channel.
It's all about repurposing. Like everything you do, you take it right here, the Facebook Live, and then you cut it up, put it into other platforms. That's something. One of the things with building our podcast out on the road to growth, it's been how do we repurpose this? How do we use the content that we pulled off and take that information and put it in other platforms? So I definitely understand what you mean.
Yes. So your week was interesting, and I had to tell you about my week.
Oh, right. You asked for a biscuit from me, and now you're taking the rest of the biscuits. I got you.
I'm taking them all. My book. Yay.
Oh, there you go.
That's my book. I spent the majority of this week, the majority of my last week, focusing on my book. I had my birthday party and book signing, my new book, Signs You Might Want to Be an Entrepreneur. And so the wonderful thing about this book that I've really been excited by, and I get excited by everything, by the way, but things that excite me are things that I wasn't expecting. And so it will be a quiet time. And I'm like, I have to go ahead and push this book. I have to get this book out here. I want people to know about all the information in the book. And then it's quiet. And I'm like, I don't know what to do to market. And all of a sudden I get an inbox and somebody's like, I want 2 copies of your book. I'm like, oh, cool. Then it's quiet. And somebody's like, where can I get your book? And people are buying the book in a way that, I was really surprised by to a certain extent. I thought I had to do more in marketing. I have all these websites where you can go and post them, like Goodreads.com. I'm not affiliated with Goodreads, but I just wanted to share that. But I haven't really put the book out there on other websites. I just been posting and sharing, have my book signing, spreading the word. And sometimes I felt like the word had died down and I had to push it back up. But people have been contacting me. So I was very excited by that.
Have you interviewed a lot of authors and trying to figure out how they push their book out or how they get eyes on their books?
That is a wonderful, wonderful question. Yes. Let me tell you, this is the funny thing that I do that not many people know. Not only authors, but I have my own PR company, In the News PR, inthenewspr.com. And it was just so happened. It was funny because I had just launched In the News, almost like on a Thursday, right? The next day, it just so happened that I had a PR firm or a representative from a PR firm as a guest on the show. And so I spent the whole interview literally just picking her brain. And she had no idea that's what I was doing. But I was like, well, as a PR company, where do you go? How do you find this? How do you get your connections? How do you make this happen? And by the time I had finished, I had all this information that I use for my own PR company. Now, when I have authors, because most people come on to be a guest because they want to push their book, they want to promote their book. And so I sit there and I'm like, oh, well, they're like, oh, we're a New York best-selling author. Okay, how did you do that? How did you get there? And that's one of my little tips and tricks that I've used ever since I was in my early teens and early work life. Because I used to do so many different projects, especially with IT and networking, that people never see me coming. And it's my cute act where I'm like, oh, can you tell me about that? How do you do that? How do you do that? How do you do that? And then by the time I got all the information.
See, if I did a high voice like that and go, hi, how do you do? I don't think I would get away. So you have to be, I think, a female, do a little cuteness. I think for a guy, it's a little bit harder to be like, tell me more.
But you guys do it. You just do it in a different way. You do it in that strong alpha male masculine where you go to the woman and you're like, what are you doing?
What is going on?
Tell me about what
you got to lick your lips too. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, you got to do all of that. And you get the information. Yeah, there you go. Stroke the beard. Stroke the beard.
Tell me more about that. All right,
yes,
I like it.
yes. That's the move right there. And I always do that. That's the move. You got to do that move so they give you all the information and they don't think that you're just pumping them for information. You just feel like interested in them. Guys do it all the time.
Oh man. Well, so what's your goal? How many books do you want to get out there? How does that work for like the printing purposes? Because I have no clue. I've never done a book anything like that. Is it every order? Is it printed out? Do you have a set copy of books already printed out, or how does that work?
Yes, I ordered 50 books. I ordered 50 books for my book signing, and at the book signing, I had 30. I sold 20, and so yes, and so now it's time for me to order some more books because I went to the post office yesterday, and I went to the post office today. Vinny, you won't believe this. Let me tell you what happened. Can you believe that I got into an argument with the lady at the post office? You believe that, huh?
Oh yeah, I think that's a given. I think everyone that's watching believes that.
So every time I go to the post office, it costs me $1.60 to send out one of these books. Okay. And so I packaged it and I put it in there and I gave it to the post office lady to send out. And she said, "What's in here?" And I said, "It's a book." I wasn't even thinking. And she said, "No, you have to send it out parcel, which is like $3.50 or something like that." I'm like, "No, I do this all the time. Yeah. It's $1.60. And she's like, "No, but it's a book." And she's like, "You told me it was a book." And I'm like, "But it can go in the large envelope. So it can go at a large envelope rate. Yeah. This is a large envelope." And so she's like, "No, I'm not sending it out." I'm like, "Okay, I do this all the time. I need you to package this and get this off." And she says, "No." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let me speak to your supervisor." So I said, "Let me speak to your supervisor." And it was a long line of people. So I said, "And while you're doing that, I'll just hold up this entire line." And it was only 2 windows that were open. I'm at one, this guy's at the other. And while she walks off to get the supervisor, I turn around and I'm like, "How you guys doing today?" And they're just looking at me like, "We're okay." I'm like, "Okay." I turn back around and I wait for her. And finally she comes back. She's like, "My supervisor says she's not coming out, but we'll just go ahead and do it this time." They always say this time, like next time.
Well, the thing is the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Like, oh my gosh. So I was dealing with AT&T the other day, right? Mm-hmm. And I called customer service for this issue. They transferred me to 4 different people over an hour time frame, and we ended up canceling at the end, right? They hung up the phone on me, the last person. And every time I ask these people, "What's your name?" They won't give me their name, or ask for the supervisor. They go, "Oh, give me a second." They're not going to supervisor, right? They come back, they go, "Oh, we can't talk. I can help you out, my friend. I can help you out." Like, relax. And so, like, I call. They were trying to get me to pay $200 for, like, some kind of late charge or whatever it was. And in the end, got it taken care of, didn't have to pay the fee, and was good to go. But it's just, like, sometimes you have to be that person. Like, I hate being that person, but you have to be that person to get what you need sometimes.
The difference is between you and I, Vinny, is that I love being that person. Oh. I do, honestly. I told you I keep it real on Weekly Review with Vinnie and Sharifah. And the reason I love it is because it's so rare for me. It's honestly so rare for me to be that person. So when I always tell people I'm nice 9 out of 10 times. So when the 10th time comes, I'm acting a fool. And I'm going to have fun. I'm like, okay. Well, we just going to sit here and this whole line is just going to be held up because you're going to give me what I want, and I've understood customer service. When I want something, I have to deal with a supervisor. You get what you want by calling it immediately and just asking for a supervisor. That's what I do. That's my little tip. I just ask for the supervisor.
This brings up on a tangent. So this is a long time ago. So I sold cars just for a short window when I was in my, I think it was like early 20s or something like that. Mm-hmm. It was only for like 2 months. At that time, I wasn't that good. But it was so funny because they teach you this little trick. So you're doing the four squares, you're going over the numbers with the person, you're trying to break down what they need, their payments, all that stuff. And then you get the number, right? So you know what the car would sell for, and the difference on what you actually sell it for compared to what it is, you're making commissions off that, right? So you're talking to the person, and you go, they're like, oh, well, we need a little bit lower. We need, oh, okay, you know, give me a second. Let me go talk to my supervisor fast. So you go in there, pretend like you're talking to the person, or how was your weekend? And you come back out there, go, so I was fighting for you because I want you to get this car. I want you to get this car. They said we can move it down a little bit. And so you give them a little bit of number, and then you kind of talk some more, and they're like, well, we need this right here. Give me one more second. Let me talk one more time. And then you go back over there. So what are you doing this weekend? Then you come back, and you go, all right, this is the best you could do. We fought him down. But it's just so funny because the whole game, I'm talking to supervisor. Like, my assumption is when someone's talking to a supervisor, it's probably only about, what, 40% of the time, 30% of the time they actually talk to the supervisor?
Right. Yes, I've done that. I've done that the same exact thing. I used to work for Barbizon. I don't know if you ever heard of Barbizon, but they do the acting classes and modeling classes, everything like that. So I used to do that as one of their representatives. And so we would try to get these kids and their parents to spend $10,000 on acting, modeling, singing, and dancing classes. And what we would do is not on the price of it per se, is even though if they had the money, we would accept them. But we always made them fight for it, you know, and it was really, I don't care if Barbizon hears this, I hope they do, because this they taught us. We would make them fight for the opportunity because they believe that anything anyone gets too easy, they don't see the value in it. So they had to audition for all these different classes, whether they had the money or not. But what made it interesting, and like your example, is even when they auditioned, we say, you know, you didn't move me. I wasn't feeling it. I need you to do it again, read the lines again and move me, like really get into it, you know, like we were just, and then they do it again. And then we would sit there and we say, you know what? I don't know. Let me go and talk to the supervisor. We bring the supervisor in, say, I want this person. They really want to be in here. They really want to be a part of it. But I don't know. Okay, do it again for the supervisor. But this time, I want you to just really nail it, you know? And they are fighting for this thing, this, you know, position that we were going to give them as long as they had the money anyway. It's just all an act, you know. That's, you know, all learned things are.
So, do you remember the worst one that got in? Like the person was like, Hamlet's? Oh, Hamlet's. Well, now. And you're like, wow, that's really close. That's really close.
Yes. And it's almost like watching American Idol or whatever the new shows are, but the singers to me are the funniest. Like those were the funniest, because acting is more, everybody acts to a certain extent. We act happy, we act sad, we act like we like someone, we act like we don't, but either you can sing, you can sing or you can't, you know? And when I heard somebody who had like this horrible voice, oh, you gonna audition at least 8 times, because we are sitting there laughing and it's hilarious, you know? And then again, mind you, we still gonna take the money, because it's like, okay, you tried, you gave it your best, you know, you're a little off, but we can work on it. Okay, you ready to go ahead and make that payment? You know, and it was just sheer entertainment for the most part, but more than anything else, people had to at least have the appearance of auditioning and really, you know, trying to get in, because more than anything else, when they go home and they tell their friends and they tell their family, like, oh, I got in, I'm a part, I'm in this class, they're going to make me a star. And they're like, oh, no, they just did that because you paid the money. Like, no, I had to audition. I had to work really hard. I auditioned like 8 times, you know, it just, but it was.
You guys are the reason for all those bad people going on American Idol and stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, the crazy thing is, though, is like there's that one movie, I think it's like The Door or something like that, or there's this one movie, it's like supposedly the worst movie ever made, and it cost like $12 million to make. And it's like, because it was so bad, it made a lot of money. So I guess that's the one that you can learn. If you're not good, be horribly bad.
Yes. But I think my thing is, I learned a lot though. Working in that company, I did learn a lot. Working in entertainment, I have learned a lot. And I've often been asked, what is the it factor? You know, and even before that company, just working in entertainment, I always tell people that there's no set criteria for the it factor, but you'll know the it factor when you see it. It's almost like an energy. You just know that person has it, whatever it is. You feel it. You feel it in your soul. You know, but some of the most successful people, especially when they sing or perform or act, aren't necessarily the best actors. They may not even be the best singers, but what they are is memorable. And that's the key to success.
Let me jump in here fast. What you're really trying to say, they might not be able to sing, might not be able to act, but they're damn attractive.
No, they may not even be attractive, but there's something about them that stands out. There's something about them that you remember, that you won't forget. Because it's just like if you have 20 people in a line, right? And then they're supposed to stand in a straight line. Everybody's standing in a straight line, like like the military. And then you have 1 out of 20 people who every time they just pat their head, you know, or do something or jump up and down. At some point, someone is going to notice them. Everything is about getting noticed. They may not be attractive. They may be very attractive. But the point is to be memorable, be something or do something or say something that separates you from everyone else. And all the people that I've worked with and that are successful, especially in entertainment, will tell you the exact same thing. Do the unexpected. Sometimes when one of the things that I do and I'm known for is I don't like meetings at all. I'm one of those people who is like, this is the meeting that could have been an email. Yeah. So I am really known for leaving meetings. Like I'll go and they'll start talking about the weather. They'll start talking about, you know, how about them Lakers? Oh, this was a nice meeting. Thank you. God bless you. Goodbye. When y'all ready to meet or talk about whatever, I'll talk to y'all later. And people are like, did she just leave? You know, but I leave. Like, and people remember the fact, even in the next meetings, that when it starts going off on tangents or something that I don't want to hear about, I'm gone. I'm out. I have time. You know, I have things to do. My time is precious. I charge enough for my time. I don't like to just sit around and waste time, and people remember that.
Well, you know, it's funny. I was talking to someone yesterday, and so I can come off, if you don't know me, because, as a jerk, because I'm like so focused on stuff. When I'm working, I'm working. You know, I'm not in for the small talk. I'm focusing on what I need to focus on to get where I need to get to. And so I was talking to someone the other day, and they're just like, yeah, that's what I took it. I took that interpretation that you just didn't want to deal with any of us. And I was like, that's not the case at all. I just, you know, a small talk. If you actually break down how much time is spent on small talk on a daily basis, what, an hour and a half? Imagine what you could do with an extra hour and a half every single day, 5 hours a week, 7 hours a week. You know, like that's just crazy. I don't
even think it's an hour or hour and a half, Vinny. I think when you look at a person who does an 8-hour day at work, the majority of the people small talk for about 5 of those 8. They're not really working. They don't really want to work. They're just there watching the clock, killing time. And so they talk about all these different things. Where for me, especially being a business owner, having multiple businesses, being, you know, working for myself, and that's one of the reasons why I'm a recluse. People are like, oh, let's sit down and have lunch. I'm like, no, because if I'm not making money, then you're costing me money.
Yeah, the opportunity cost. It's the opportunity cost, basically, of that small talk. You could be doing something else that could be offering you a lot more, you know, a lot more monetary gains, or even mental gains. Like there's people that you talk to, and you're doing maybe small talk, or they're trying to get small talk out of you, and they're just telling you all the negatives of what's going on with them. You're just like, why are you doing this? You're not adding value. You're actually taking away, you know, my value, you know, that for my next task. So no, I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah. I'm just not a small talk kind of person. Sometimes I wish I was. Sometimes I wish I was more casual, more laid back, and I could sit and just bullshit for a long time. But I like to help people. Everything I do, being a business consultant, is about helping people, serving people. So if I'm just sitting there doing nothing, that means there's someone that I'm not assisting, someone I'm not helping, someone I'm not helping them get to the next level.
You want me to tell you a secret how you can be a small talk person?
Yes. Yes.
Go grab a 6-pack of beer
Mm-hmm.
and drink some beer. That would make it a lot easier to be a small talk person.
I don't drink beer.
Oh, you don't? Oh, well, then maybe that's just me then.
Yeah.
Do you drink wine?
Yes, I'm a lady.
Oh, excuse. Yeah. Well, that's true. What kind of wine do you drink?
I don't have a preference. I just like wine.
What about box wine?
No, I don't like box wine.
Oh, okay.
No, I like pretty.
You have some preference.
I like pretty packages, but I don't, I don't care what the type of brand is to a certain extent, but I like wine. I've just never been a beer drinker. Val is laughing at us, Vinny. I'm just telling you.
Oh, she's laughing at us?
Yes. I think she thinks it's
funny. Don't get Val started on drinking wine. Oh, gosh.
I'm going to ask Val, what's a good wine? Because Val was recommending me movies to watch on Netflix. When we met and you were preparing and we sat down on the couch, I thought we were going to discuss, getting ready for the interview. What are we looking for? That kind of thing. And Val was just like, let me tell you about these movies on Netflix. And I'm like, okay, girl, let's talk. And so she started sharing all these movies that I've been watching since then. And so now I'm trying to get her to tell me what wine I should drink.
Well, see, Val's really.
She said she doesn't drink wine.
Yeah, well, I guess she doesn't want people to know. But no, Val's really good at what she'll do is she brings your guard down. See, she was talking about the movies. You're getting your mind off it, and then if I didn't come in there at the moment I came in there, she's gonna sell you on something. That's what she does.
Yeah, I saw that. I like watching people. I'm a people watcher. So I like that, but I saw the hustler in her. You know what I mean? I saw the hustler in her. A hustler is somebody who, you don't even know that they hustling. They just talking, they just having a conversation, they getting to know you, they filling you out, trying to figure out if you're ready to buy a house, if you want to buy a house, if you're interested in buying a house, like what are you really looking for? So she's great. I like her persona. So I think you have a great team, and I want to meet some more of your team.
Yeah. We're talking about sales and that kind of stuff. I was listening to a podcast yesterday. It was very interesting. It was one of my friends, this guy Doug. He actually sent me the podcast to listen to this guy, and this guy was talking about. He goes, know what your product solves. Figure out what that product is that you solve. It solves, right? So when you're talking to a person, dive deeper into their problem. Talk to them about basically the problem that you're going to help them out with, but don't say anything about your product. And so once you get them down to them feeling the pain of that item right there, then you get them swayed into your product. So you never talk about your product until they feel that pain already and they're at that low point. I thought it was kind of an interesting way of looking at sales.
I love sales, and I've always, it is an interesting way to look at it. And I didn't even discuss some of the podcasts or the interviews that I had this week. And one of the people, Jerry Teplitz, his whole focus was on sales, how to work with companies, get their salespeople to be able to sell more. He has a program, and it was somewhere in my notes, somewhere where I wasn't paying attention. It was Switch On Selling. That's what it was called. Switch On Selling with Jerry Teplitz. And on his website, he does these workshops to get people to switch on their selling abilities. And he actually had us sit and go through these experiences where we learned how our body responds to negative aspects of selling as opposed to positive aspects of selling. And he asked a lot of questions. And so we were just talking about my negative, what I thought negative about selling and what I thought that was positive. And I've been selling for years. I learned a lot of techniques about selling, but for me, the most negative aspect is cold calling. And so he was showing and asking how my body responded to cold calling. I'm like, my body's like, oh my God, I have to do this. Whereas if it's an incoming call, I'm like, I got this. It's like a challenge. I love to close people, but at least I know the incoming call, they already have an interest. And that's all I need is that door to be partially open, and then I'm kicking it through.
You know what? I never really understood mindset. Like it's so funny. If I look at my younger self, right, when I was growing up, and I had sisters that were into the whole mindset thing. And so I would hear them talking about, they went to like a Landmark and all these other things where it's all about mindset. And they're telling me, oh, if you think it, you can do it. If you this and this. And I was just like, that's a bunch of hogwash. And it's so funny because now I'm in that mindset, that idea that if you think positive things are going to happen, they're going to happen. If you have that idea of this is going to happen, going to walk through it, it's going to happen. So it's just funny how things can change, how people can change. So, yeah, I totally agree.
My mindset probably needs to change, but I don't like cold calling because anytime a person calls me, I hang up. Like they can't even get through their spiel. I don't want to hear about it. I'm having dinner. I'm watching my television show because I hate for my phone to ring like that. If you want to know my biggest pet peeves, I hate for my phone to ring. It could be anybody, and when they call, they literally get this response like they're irritating me. Because I don't want to talk. I talk all day. When you do 3 to 5 interviews a day, the last thing you want to do is talk to other people. And so I feel like that when I'm doing cold calls, when I'm calling out, I'm like, they're not going to want to talk to me. And I know that's a mindset, but what I do instead of trying to change that mindset is to find ways that work for me. So I do a lot of speaking engagements. Anytime I show up to speak, I make sales, I make money. I can make more in one day. That's why I do events. That's my number one tip, my number one technique, my number one trick for any business. Throw an event, because you can close more people in one day in a couple of hours than you can, or at least I can, with calling people back to back to back. And you may get, some maybes and then the follow-up. I don't do follow-up. I create the demand and then have people buy.
How many events do you usually have?
No more than one a month.
Oh, wow.
But I like to have about once a month because I spend that 30 days pushing the interest and the traffic to that event. And this again, back to me and my book signing and my birthday party, this is what happened. I was going to have a comedian perform. So we set up the chairs and everything else so that the comedian could perform. The comedian totally flaked. He did a no-show. And so people were sitting there and they're like, okay, we're ready for the show to get started. And I'm like, okay, let's get started. But I'm stalling because I have absolutely no idea what the show is at this point since the comedian has flanked on me. And so I just said, I want to thank all the people for coming out. And I just started thanking people. And in the process, it was like my own award ceremony. In the process of thanking everybody, I would tell them, I'm like, oh, thank you, Vinnie. I'm so glad you came. Everyone, you have to meet Vinnie. Vinnie is the best realtor in Southern California. Vinnie, tell him what you do. And I did that all night. And then by the time I finished, people had exchanged business cards. They had made powerful connections. People started doing business with other people. And I was like, yes, that's what, that's my thing. And so I love networking and introducing people.
So are you going to give a shout out to that comedian? Because if that comedian was there, you wouldn't have had the opportunity to understand what your powerful mindset was.
No. I am not going to give Melrose Uncut a shout out because he doesn't deserve that. Melrose agreed to come and do the show, and Melrose didn't show up. I told him, I'm going to pay you $100. Come do this show. He agreed. I gave him the address, and Melrose Uncut was not there. I'm not shouting him out. He hasn't answered me.
Oh, he hasn't answered you?
No, I called him that night and like, dude, are you coming? But he didn't answer. And since then, he hasn't responded. But see, I love being 43. Like, to me, the 43 is like the best age ever, because I was a very...
Until 44 comes about, right? Until 44 comes about.
Yes. Don't mock me, Vinnie. Don't do that. So back to 43 is because when I was in my 20s, I was so sensitive. Like, you could look at me the wrong way and I would cry. I was a very sensitive person. Everything people's thoughts and everything people thought of me really mattered. If you would have told me you didn't like this shirt, I would have went and changed it. Now I'm like, oh, wow. I don't care. I'm good with life. And I learned to just trust life and trust the universe and trust that things happen the way they're supposed to happen. So things don't bend me out of shape the way they used to. And let me ask you this question about being a podcast host. I had this guy who called me yesterday. This guy was supposed to have been on my show twice. And each time he no-showed. He completely flaked. Then he called me. He was supposed to be on the show Monday. And for the second time that he flaked. He called me yesterday, all apologetic again, and he wants to be on the show on Thursday. I mean, this upcoming Monday. I didn't get mad. I didn't go off. I didn't say, how stupid do you think I am to reschedule you when you've already flaked twice? Those are the people who, because they keep wanting to be a guest on your show, when they actually do the show, those are the people that will bend over backwards to promote the show and get it out there, because that now they're like, I got to make this work. I got to make it up to Sharifah. And they promote it, and it's good. Nobody but me even knows that he, that's why I never promote my shows prior to. You know, some people do. They make these little flyers and they say, Enriquez is coming up on this show. I don't do that, because when people flake on me, then it looks bad for me. I just do a show, and then if the person doesn't show up, nobody ever knew I had a show scheduled.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that. Yeah, so if they're flaking on you, but when they actually do it, then that pushes them for the idea that they want to make sure that they did right by you in the end.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way of putting it. I would have never thought about something like that. I would have basically played probably a little bit of game about it. And then, yeah,
it's a game. Because see, what I call it, it's more like, to me, it's like that's their penalty. That's the penalty I'm about to assess. Right. And sometimes when people flake or they change certain things, then those people, I'll make special requests. Oh, okay. Well, you're going to be on. Can you go ahead and promote this 2 days prior and then the day prior and everything to let people know you're going to be there? Promote it on your Instagram. Promote it. And I push them to do a little bit more work than other guests, because now I feel like you owe me.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Who do you have? Well, I know you're not going to promote if they come about, but who are some of the people you have planned in the future to come about? Are you excited to, like, is there like a profession that you're looking for to actually talk to?
I have some great people coming up. Great people coming up. But let me tell you about one of the interviews. Actually, yes, one of the interviews I had yesterday. And that was a really great interview. It was with Lucinda Collis. And Lucinda owns Body Studios in Anaheim. And that's where we held the book signing and birthday party. And Lucinda has Body Studios, but she's personally a very shy person, very introverted person. And she doesn't really tell people what she does. And she's, for lack of a better word, a psychic. And right. And she was like, Sharifah, I think it's time for me to kind of step out there and tell people what I do and show people what I do. And she was like, can I be on your show? I'm like, sure. So she was a guest yesterday. And normally what she does, if she's been on my show, is just talk about Body Studios, that you can hold events there, that people can hold workshops there. You know, it was all about the studio itself, the space, how much they charge for rentals, but it was never about her personally. So this was the first time that I had an opportunity to really talk to her about what she does and to help her, answer questions. And so I had a lot of questions, including, she was, what is a psychic? What is an intuitive counselor? How do you get that information? What is energy? And so she was explaining it to me, and she said she's always done it since she was about 9 years old. But one of the questions that I always wonder is, if you're intuitive and you're reading people's energy, why do you use cards to do the reading? And so it was a great interview. I would love if anybody would check it out. I did it yesterday, but it was very informative, because you don't always get an opportunity. You may see psychics do readings, but to really ask them those deep questions of, how does it work? How does it work for you? People were asking all kinds of questions, like, how do you receive the information, Lucinda? Do you hear it, see it, feel it, visualize it? What is it? And so I thought that was an amazing interview.
I know it's different. And so I was in New Orleans, what was it, a month ago, I think now, right? Maybe a month and a half ago. And so they're talking about voodoo. Mm-hmm. And the original person of voodoo, I forgot her name. Yet she, oh my gosh, I have it on my Facebook. I interviewed the whole guy. He's giving a whole presentation about basically the origins of voodoo. And he's talking about how the original person basically was, and I'm not saying anything about psychic or like that, but for the voodoo, she was a master manipulator. She was able, she would pay people to hear all the secrets of happening in the town. And so she'd get all these secrets, and now she's sitting down with the people. And so to charge a higher price, she would grab like all this over the top stuff. And she would know the secrets already, and she would tell these people, she goes, oh, I think this is happening, this is happening. And they're like, oh my gosh, how would you know that? You know? And so what she started doing is she would have her daughters take over her role. So when she was getting older, her daughters ended up taking her position. That she trained her daughters, and so they're like, oh my gosh, this lady never gets old. And so she kept on having multiple generations be that pretending they're the same individual right there, and over time it became this mystic figure. And so
wow.
I'm butchering the story, but it's one of those things that if you go Google right now the origin of voodoo, it's a really surprising idea.
I think once we finish this show today, I'm going to Google the origins, because I love stories like that. I love learning the truth. I mean, because sometimes people, have expressions or know about certain things, but they don't know the story behind it. They don't know where it comes from. They don't even know like the meaning. I just took one of those little Facebook quizzes like right before we came on here, and I got 100% for knowing all these different words. And I was like, yes. They're like, you're at genius level, because I knew all of these different difficult words in this quiz. But I love to learn. I love to learn stories and expressions. Like for instance, one of my favorite expressions is what is it? Idle hands are the devil's workshop, right? And it's one of those that people say either idle hands or idle minds. And when people say idle minds are the devil workshop, it irritates the heck out of me, because it tells me you don't even know what it means, because idle hands means that if I'm sitting here doing nothing with my hands, then my mind is going to start giving me ideas of things to do that's devilish, basically. But your mind itself is never idle. It's your hands that have nothing to do. So I'm like, when people say idle minds are the devil's workshop, I'm like, oh, don't say that. You don't know what you're talking about. So
this is not a story, but when we're talking about basically stuff that's like stories or like phrases or whatever. So if anyone's ever going to Ireland, and so there's the Blarney Stone, right? Which is a kiss it for good luck.
Right.
Okay? Don't kiss it, because what happens is the locals actually pee on it. They urinate on it. So just FYI, if anyone's going to Ireland, don't kiss the Blarney Stone. That's one of if you didn't pick anything up from this whole weekly this show today, that's the one thing I can tell you. Don't kiss the Blarney Stone in Ireland.
I think we gave him a lot of information this week. I definitely think that we did. I had a lot of fun. I don't know if you had a lot of fun, but we learned that idle hands are the devil's workshop, and don't kiss the Blarney Stone.
Yep. I think
when are we going to be back, Vinny?
So we got back next Thursday at 5:00, right?
That's right.
What are you looking forward to by the next time we talk? Is there like anything that you're kind of excited about, kind of nuggets that you plan to offer for next week?
Yes, I am going to Google the origin of voodoo, and so when we come back next Thursday at 5 p.m., I'm going to have an intelligent response to the conversation, because again, I like to learn. And so I want to discuss that. And then I'm going to talk about some of the interviews that I had between now and then.
You know what? So tomorrow I'm presenting to my old high school. So I'm back there. So we'll talk next Thursday and we'll see how that went. Maybe I'll be changing the minds of tomorrow, or actually pushing them away from real estate. So we'll see what happens with all that good stuff.
Well, what high school is it?
So it's called Cathedral. It's in San Diego Cathedral. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be there tomorrow morning and trying to shape the minds of tomorrow.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, that's good. So you know what, Vinny? I think we did a wonderful job. First show for everyone who's tuned in. Thank you for tuning in to Weekly Review with Vinnie and Sharifah.
See you guys next week.
See you next week. And we are out.